wanted to investigate and see if waterfowl are distributing weed seeds. There's little to no research that shows agronomic weed seeds. There are a couple of research projects that have taken place in recent years that show that waterfowl, particularly ducks, have the ability to spread wetland invasive species. For instance, individuals who are revitalizing wetland areas and then having invasive species show up rather rapidly after they've reworked these wetlands. And so they investigated that, but nobody really looked at the pigweeds or other agronomically important weed species. So we came up with two questions that we wanted to figure out when we started this project. The first being, what are waterfowl eating? What are they feeding on? What are they carrying with them throughout the state of Missouri? And the two species, or the two groups of waterfowl that we looked at would be the ducks, which we went out through the help of Missouri waterfowl hunters, asking for them to donate their carcasses after they harvested them during hunting season. We collected almost 240 ducks, and some of this information you can see is on page 35. 240 ducks were collected last fall and winter. We took these ducks from all over the state of Missouri. Every corner we have some species that came in from there. And we also took 115 snow geese. And we've gone through all the ducks, and what we did is we cut out their digestive tracts, and then we segmented it between the esophagus, the gizzard, and then the intestines. And we took these and got inside of them and sieved all the plant material out. So anything that these birds were eating prior to them being harvested, we now collected it and kept it in sections. We then went to the greenhouse in mid-May and planted out what we collected from all 240 ducks this past season. And you can see here on this graph the number of weed species that I had counted by June 29th. It was roughly 8,300 individual weeds that I had counted, and what sections of the digestive tract they have come from. The esophagus obviously being the largest because the digestive processes haven't taken place as much, and that's really the key area for us to be able to find exactly what they're eating. The digestive processes haven't really destroyed much of the seed yet. The next section would be the gizzard, and that was the second largest number of weeds that I counted, and then the last being the intestines. And this is what it looks like in the greenhouse. And some of the weeds that you've got here, obviously we have pigweeds, and there's some from the intestines, from the esophagus, and from the gizzards. And then we had a variety of other weeds. I've counted over 40 different weed species so far, and I'm still counting. And the numbers on here is 8,300 species, and as of yesterday, I'm probably somewhere between 12 and 15,000. Seeing all kinds of stuff, Eclipta, prickly sida, trees. And so there's a lot of good survey data that we're getting out of this. So that brought us to our next question. Now we know what these ducks are eating. We haven't gotten to the geese yet due to greenhouse space limitation, but we wanted to see, well, of the amount of weeds that they eat, what will make it through the bird all the way through its digestive system, and then second, of that, what would actually be viable in the field. So if you turn to the next page, I just wanted to quickly show some of these pie charts that show the percentage of weeds that we found in those different sections. And particularly of note, of course, barnyard grass and smartweed. Most good waterfowl hunters know that ducks like that. They like those species the most. A lot of people plant that for ducks in their wetlands. But another thing here in the intestines is we found over a quarter of the weed species that I've identified are pigweeds. And that is basically the largest opportunity, is once it's reached the intestine, most of the digestive processes have taken place. So it'll pass through the duck, and there's a good chance that that seed will live. We've started a feeding study to determine the recovery rate and the viability of the seed that goes through mallard ducks as a species that we're using. They're the most commonly killed and harvested in the state of Missouri, and they're pretty good model duck organism for the other species. We've done 2 iterations so far, and we don't have any data yet as of what we've got for recovery rates or viability, but I have done the collections myself. And the way it works is we took 16 different weed species, We weighed out a 1 gram sample. We counted the exact number of seeds in that sample so we knew how much seed we're feeding the birds. Precision fed the animals and then monitored them for a 48-hour period, collecting fecal samples every 4 hours up until the 48-hour mark. And to the 48-hour mark, I have found Palmer amaranth, water hemp, lamb's quarters, and chickweed still making it through the bird. So what we're going to do when we get some of this data through this feeding study is we're going to be able to tell the recovery rate, how much of that actually made it through, how much of that is viable, and then we're also going to be able to see how long it took to get through the bird. And there's a lot of good research out there already that shows flight patterns and the amount of time that mallards or other waterfowl species will fly. And some of the stuff that I've read shows up to 750 kilometers for a waterfowl, a duck species particularly, to be able to fly in a 48-hour period. And that's a long ways to be able to spread something like Palmer or water hemp. And that's something that we think we're going to be able to show when we get done with this feeding study, is the potential for these particular animals and also for geese to be able to spread some of these plants.